Stan Gibilisco here. It is the 29th of December, 2017. Herewith, I offer a message of hope to the residents of Puerto Rico, which approximately 100 days ago was struck by Category 4 Hurricane Maria. Much of Puerto Rico is still without power. Other parts of the infrastructure are still heavily in disrepair, and many of the residents have fled to the United States mainland because of despair over the situation that they face. Well, I want to, again, offer a message of hope and encouragement to you people still in Puerto Rico who still are suffering from privations of various sorts. 25 years ago, in 1992, Hurricane Andrew struck the southern tip of the Florida Peninsula. It was a small hurricane, a fast-moving hurricane, so its winds did not last long. It struck dead center on the city of Homestead, Florida, and I had actually evacuated Miami Beach to go to Homestead to stay with some friends because I was afraid to stay on the ocean front. Well, Andrew missed Miami Beach. The outer edge of the eye wall missed Miami Beach by 7 short miles. But Homestead was struck dead center on. In fact, where I was located, near the Turkey Point power plant in South Florida, about 10 miles west of that place, the center of the eye passed directly over. It couldn't have made a more direct hit. We were spared the storm surge, thank goodness, but we were not spared the wind and its destructive effects. Meteorologists are debating to this day how powerful the winds actually were, but at the Turkey Point power plant they measured a peak gust of 174 miles an hour, somewhere on the order of 160, 155 knots. Sustained winds of approximately 150 miles an hour, similar in intensity to Maria. It was 6 months before electricity was fully restored to that area and other parts of the infrastructure. Most of the people around there had wells for water, and if they ran off of electric pumps and they didn't have a generator, they were out of luck. Well, we had a well where I was staying with these people, but we could pump it by hand if we had to, and because we had no electricity, we had to. And we took cold showers with underneath that well, and at least were able to maintain our cleanliness. Now, I was a guest at that house, and after only 3 days, because it was connected to the mainland, Florida is not an island, so it's easier to evacuate affected zones, and Andrew was most likely smaller in diameter. My friends drove me back to Miami Beach when I heard that power had been restored to Miami Beach. I heard that by means of ham radio, because all other methods of communication, all other modes, were completely down. The cell phone tower had been blown down. Couldn't use a cell phone. The electric utility lines were blown away like so many cobwebs. And it, as I said, I think I said, it was 6 months before power was fully restored. The landscape was essentially defoliated and was drastically altered and remains drastically altered to this day because of the effects of that hurricane. Prior to the hurricane, on the evening of the 24th of August, 1992, it looked like we lived in a plantation. The hurricane struck at 4:45 in the morning and lasted until about 7 in the morning. The intense winds of the hurricane. When we awoke the following morning, when sunlight arrived the following morning, we could scarcely believe what we saw. We went out and surveyed the damage, and we couldn't find our way back home because all of the street signs were gone. All of the familiar landmarks were gone. Everything was essentially wiped out, except we lived in a very sturdily constructed house, or my friends did, and the core of that house withstood the storm, although all of the new additions were blown away without a trace. I guess they moved out of the area. They sold their house, got what insurance they could, and moved to the Tampa-St. Petersburg area instead, which is ironically equally vulnerable. If I had lived in their place, if I had been in their place, I'd have evacuated to some place like the Black Hills of South Dakota or something. But it took 6 months for all of the utilities to be fully restored down there. It's only been about 3 months in Puerto Rico, so all I have to say to you people in Puerto Rico still there is have hope, stick with it, hope never dies, and eventually you may recover and find yourself better than ever, a better place to live than ever before. Homestead was kind of a redneck place before Hurricane Andrew, but afterwards it evolved completely different into an artistic community. A lot less trees, much different landscape, and much different demographic. And today it's a thriving location to be, although it was struck by a hurricane in 2017 this year, but nowhere near as severe as Andrew. And that's hurricane country down there. That kind of thing from time to time happens. Andrew was probably a 100-year hurricane, maybe even a 200-year hurricane, comparable intensity to the great Labor Day storm which struck the Florida Keys in 1935. Comparable intensity to Hurricane Camille, which struck near Biloxi, Mississippi in 1969. Those communities are thriving today. The upper Florida Keys, Key Largo, that was also struck, I believe it was Irma that struck that location. If you like a place and you love a place, stick with it. The residents of Homestead who decided to stay had to wait 6 months before they got all their power back. You in Puerto Rico have had to wait 3 months. It takes a long time to get things fully functional once again after a storm like that. But when they do, I hope that our government in the United States sees fit to provide the support that you need to redevelop, and it's up to you who decide to stay in Puerto Rico to remold your island into a better place than it ever would have been had it not been for that catastrophe. It's up to humanity to change catastrophes into miracles. It's been done before, and it can happen again. Have hope. Don't lose the faith. God bless. And keep on trucking, as we'd say in much of the United States. Things can only get better. Stan Gibilisco signing off. Until next time, so long.